Nothing good has ever come from being asked, "Are you still single?" Doesn't matter if it's from your friends, your family, it's always a red flag. So when my friend dropped that random question on a Friday, I was praying that she was just being nosy. Turns out, she had plans for me. We all know that one friend, you know, the one who's 100%ed every visual novel and dating sim on the market. My friend, let's call her Caitlin, was one of those. She could be a licensed relationship counselor by now if she put half the time that she spent on video games working towards an actual degree. She wanted to make me the subject of her next IRL matchmaker arc, but she failed to account for one thing. I am actually undateable. That's leaving aside the fact that the dating market is an absolute nightmare right now, and you have to go through the trenches just to find basic human decency and respect. But we'll revisit that in an entirely separate video. Caitlin was confident that she could solve my problem. She said that she had the perfect guy for me. We'll call him Jace. She was really talking him up. She said that he was studying to be a lawyer, so he had good money, plus he was 6'1", and he went to the gym, and not to mention super hot, like a total heart stopper. But I wasn't really worried about money. I had plans on working, and I'm not really into rugged looking guys, which he was. Even her saying that he was well versed in internet culture didn't exactly sway me. I'm chronically online, and as someone who's chronically online, I can tell you it's not exactly a selling point. And the cherry on top, he was her best friend. Now, I believe that guys and girls can be best friends without anything else going on. Crazier things have happened, but I don't know how many girls with guy best friends racing to just find them a girlfriend. Usually girls with guy friends are like weirdly territorial. Maybe Caitlin just gave me the green light because we were already friends. Before I could give her like a concrete yes or no, she'd already chosen for me. So I resigned myself to the fact that she'd already shared my contact information with her bestie. And he blew it. He blew it in record time too. We're talking about a catastrophic fumble. A fumble worse than the 49ers fumbling the last 2 minutes of the Super Bowl last year, and I am still not over that one. He started by apologizing for his best friend setting us up and leaving us to figure out how to have a conversation, which, you know, was a bit like locking a black bear and a grizzly bear in a room together and hoping that they'd get along. Remember that analogy because it's going to be extremely relevant later. I told him not to worry, and I asked him to tell me about himself, his life, his vibes, etc. His response was a little uncomfortable. He basically said his vibes were rancid. He was going through law school, but only got in because COVID scrambled everyone's brains and lowered the bar for entry. His grades had soared thanks to him taking advantage of the online classes. We were off to an amazing start, but I could look past the self-deprecation. Maybe he was charming underneath. He'd been best friends with Caitlin for 5 years after all. Next, he flipped the question back on me, while also asking what kind of music I was into. Now, my music taste is something I've always been really insecure about for reasons that I'll get into in another video. So I went for a generic answer. I said I listen to just about anything. I didn't have a chance to add anything before he went, "That's cool, I'll just take a look." He pulled up my Spotify and started scrolling through my public playlist. I tried to laugh it off and said that he wouldn't find anything incriminating. Apparently, he did find something. He made a face that like he had struck gold or something. And I immediately began panicking over what unholy thing he might have discovered. So many possibilities flashed through my head all at once. I thought that I was gonna burst like a balloon and scatter pieces of myself all over the floor. Thankfully, it was my worries that ended up scattering because he looked me dead in the eye and said, "So, would you describe yourself as an e-girl?" He just found some playlists that I had made back when I was like 16. They had a particular aesthetic, but I'm not ashamed of them. I don't think there's anything wrong with a girl who studies having studying playlists. And I told him as much. He said, of course not. But he also said, Scholar Ego playlists were kind of a menace to have on public display. I'm sure you could have seen the loading screen in my eyes as I tried to mentally process that. Like, what was so wrong with being a girl on the internet who spent lots of time learning from books and websites? I wasn't sure how to respond, so I just sort of shrugged it off. And instead of taking the hint to drop it, he doubled down, saying how referring to yourself as an e-girl is grounds for bullying. That right there was the point of no return. I am not a fan of bullying in any capacity, however playful. Not in my friendships or my relationships. I don't even let my family talk to me like that. So the teasing shtick is just an instant turnoff for me. His tone might have suggested he was trying to be flirty, but I am way too autistic to read tone. That sort of subtlety just gets left at the door. I'm surprised Caitlin didn't think to mention this to him. At that point, I told him flat out this wasn't going to work. And of course, he asked why not, so I gave it to him straight. You remember that whole bear analogy from earlier? Yeah, if you thought that I was the black bear in the scenario, you were dead wrong. So there's a reason why I don't do jokingly rude with my family or friends. When I am rude, I just go for the throat. I am not wired for snips or jabs. I only know how to throw finishing blows. Turns out there's a downside to being a positive ray of sunshine 99% of the time. When that 1% rolls around, the darkness makes up for the lost time by spewing out all at once. Maybe that's why empaths are so uncomfortable around me. On the outside, I'm cutesy and adorable. Below the surface, not depression, something more violent. Anyway, I told him things weren't gonna work out, and all things considered, he took it pretty well. I couldn't shake the feeling though that something else was going on. And I know that what you guys are thinking. I said earlier that girls and guys can be platonic friends, but there was a particular vibe coming off of this guy. He fumbled absolutely so fast, it seemed almost intentional. Like his plan was to fail all along, just so he could turn around and say, look, I told you it wouldn't work out. Now I don't have to move on from you. I had to get to the bottom of things right away. I needed answers, not because I was hurt, but because I'm nosy, and it took me a while to flag Caitlin down, but eventually she confessed. Jace did have feelings for her, and she sent him my way, hoping that he would be able to get over her. But he'd been dropping hints that not only had he definitely not moved on, but he had no intention of moving on either. Hell, he straight up said he'd been waiting for her until she and her current boyfriend broke up. Caitlin also admitted that she's the kind of girl that gravitates towards men that bully her a little, which, you know, totally normal and healthy. Then again, I don't think that I, Miss Single as single can be, have much room to judge. At first, I wanted to wring her neck. Like, what makes you think that I want to be someone's second choice like that? Am I so pitiable that my friends would conspire to put me in any relationship at this point? In the end, I just joked that it would solve our problems if she and I started dating. Plus, I did her the favor of pointing out how unhealthy Jace's behavioral pattern really was. And that's how I put an end to a 5-year-long friendship. Thanks for bearing with me through this one. I know some people don't really like to hear about VTubers' dating lives. It's just, mine is just such a train wreck. I can't help but feel like it's entertaining in its absurdity. Are there any red flags or absolute no-nos you have when it comes to dating? Feel free to let me know in the comments. I'm super curious to know. I got told one big red flag about me is the fact that I don't own a couch. And to that, I say, you don't need a couch when you never have anyone visiting your apartment. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be at peace. See you guys next video.